You know your life would be better with the adipose, but I'm not talking about that tonight. Tonight, we're talking about this. Copious amounts of dark red lipstick, lots of dark eyeshadow, and a face that's so disgusted with you could practically peel it off her face. And didn't we just love evil Clara? The twistedness, the nastiness, the vindictiveness, the I'm going to stalk this Zygon and ruin his life by making him reveal himself. The way they had evil Clara shown to be evil by the tied back hair. And then the good Clara showed to be good by having hair that was everywhere. It's all in the lipstick and makeup, ladies. If you want to look evil, darken it. If you wish to look good, lighten it and mess up your hair. This is the word of Doctor Who to us, for us today. Blessings be upon it. Now, I'm only going to be doing a short review this evening because I have a man cold and my voice hurts, but I shall be going through, as always, my thoughts on the episode. And, of course, let me remind you, all reviews are, of course, subjective. So if you disagree with me, let me know. If you agree with me, let me know. Quick request, though. If you're commenting on my YouTube stuff, please do. But could you make sure your privacy settings enable me to reply back? Because I have some lovely, lovely people that I'd love to reply things back to, but the reply button isn't there because on your Google settings, you've got something that says, allow people to reply to your public comments. Yes, no, anyone, blah, 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 blah. And it's not set correctly. So please check that's not you. Or further to last week's review, some of you will have seen this and not seen this. Obviously, I thought last week's episode was quite controversial. Lots of other people's didn't. And lots of other people replied to my review in last week's YouTube. And I then did on my Spadaddy show on Tuesdays, I kind of did a response back to the response to my review. In that show. So I'm not going to be talking tonight about or very little about the kind of the terrorist links and the ISIS links and things like that, because I think I covered it last week and I covered the responses to the responses in that review. So today I'm just going to be focusing on this episode a bit more kind of independently, really. And I liked it. I think we were back to a far more kind of normal kind of Doctor Who invasion adventure. The links to, the darker issues are obviously still there, but they this wasn't the setup to the plot. This was the resolution to the plot. So it didn't really kind of have that kind of same kind of dark edge to it. It was more kind of like, how are we going to deal with this? I really liked, the Clara awake inside the Zygon's mind idea. And complimenting to Clara's character, she does that thing where she wakes up in her bedroom, but it's not quite her bedroom, and, opens the window and there's a door there, and she opens the door and there's another door there. And it kind of compliments her character that she worked out that she wasn't really there. Whereas, me, you, other assistants would have just been like, oh, I don't understand. But she actually, she has enough knowledge. She's traveled enough with the Doctor now. She's seen enough now to kind of go, right, so this isn't real. And is able to kind of work within that. And I really like the idea of the Zygon shooting at the Doctor and the TV being kind of moved to kind of pull it off. And, that she comes up with clever ideas like biting her own finger. It didn't work, but, it was cool stuff. And texting the Doctor with her phone and things like that. I guess I just wish, Perfect World and all that kind of stuff, they'd done a little bit more with that idea. They kind of started the episode off with this idea of like a Zygon in a Zygon, or to go the other way, the friend within the enemy and the enemy within the friend. Remember that again? And it kind of petered out pretty quickly. And so real Clara didn't have a lot to do this episode. There was I did like the lie detecting bit, as Clara versus Clara tried to, how can you describe it? They tried to kind of out-cool each other, didn't they? Well, I'm so much cooler than you. No, I'm so much cooler than you. No, I'm cooler than you. Try me. Yeah. And, and that was nice. And it must have been, kind of fun for them to kind of film, or awkward for them to film this kind of, Clara versus Clara debate, going through the TV. And it was really nicely done. And the actress showed both sides of that, really well. If I'm going to be, no, this isn't a picky thing. This is more of a comment thing. Do any of you feel that Capaldi's Doctor loves Clara a little bit too much? Now, and I'm not talking about like, is she worthy of that love, or is she, look, is there a romantic thing going on? I'm not making that implication, but more like the Capaldi Doctor really, really likes her, and he's really, really open about how much he really likes Clara. In a way that Tennant wasn't even with Rose. You know, there was kind of stuff after she left. You know, Tennant had the whole "I really miss you," but and you know, with Martha and with Donna. And I mean, the Doctor has been close to lots of his companions, but with this one, he really likes Clara. I mean, really likes her. And I guess, like, I'm trying to justify it from his point of view. Like, she's the only link he has back to when he was Matt Smith, and when he regenerated, he was kind of a bit like, you know, what's going on? You know, I mean, she is kind of his carer. And they used that kind of comment the series before. But he doesn't really need looking after her anymore. You know, he goes off by him. You know, they're not linked together. You know, he goes off by himself and picks her up from time to time. You know, he doesn't rely on her anymore. And with that in mind, the relationship is all a bit, I don't want to say unpleasant or creepy, but it's kind of bordering on unpleasant and creepy. But maybe I'm going too far. But do you know what I mean? I can see various people kind of saying, yep, yes, I agree in there. You know, bits where the Doctor's like, well, sadly, you know, I know that face is a bit like, oh. And the bit where he's kind of like, well, what happened to change your mind? Well, I met Clara. You know, and it's all a little bit like, she's not that great. You know, I mean, they've done a lot with her character. I like the way she's very clever. They've built her up. She's heroic, blah, 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 but not necessarily more than, say, someone like Martha was, or someone like, you know, because when Martha wanted to leave the Doctor effectively kind of went, oh, that's really sad. I don't want you to go. Are you sure? But all right then. Whereas with Clara, he's like, oh, and at the end of each episode, you know, for the last 3 or 4 episodes, you know, they've all kind of ended with the Doctor kind of looking at Clara and kind of having this kind of like, you know, type look. Which I've got a few things to say about. First of all, let's finish that point. You know, that like the Doctor seems to like her a little bit too much. You know, it just makes it doesn't quite ring true, which makes me wonder if there's other things going on, plotline things, or whether it's just the way it's scripted. Secondly, I wonder if the Doctor knows something we don't know as the viewer about what's going to happen to Clara, because they've had quite a few little comments, like, you know, the episode where you had Lady Me, or whatever her name was, you know, and it was all about how people are like mayflies, and they you know, they go, and then Doctor kind of gave her that little look at the end of the episode, you know, and we kind of understood as the viewer it's because she's temporary, he's more or less immortal, and you know, he's understanding that they're going to miss it. She's going to go one day, and the look seemed to make sense. But then you had another kind of look at the end of this episode that was similar in that kind of like, you know, type thing. And as far as we know, he doesn't know anything's going wrong with her or their relationship, or her disappearing and him going. Yeah, and so Tiny on behind me there is saying it feels like a bit like he knows something bad will happen, but we as the viewer haven't been given that information. No, I don't mind at all, like us being kept out of things, but you'd think they would have more hints in there if that's the case. So I wonder what's going on with that. That's not a complaint or a praise. It's just I wonder what's going on with that one. But the other thing is, going back to this idea of like, does he like Clara a little bit too much? They've actually kept Clara and the Doctor apart an awful lot over the last 4 or 5 episodes. Maybe even this series, if I could summarize it, because like you think all the Doctor and Davros stuff, Doctor and Clara were apart because she was with the Master and he was with Davros, basically for those 2 episodes. Then the next 2 you had the Ghosts ones, and they were together for the first one, but then they split. He went back in time and she didn't. Then you had the Vikings and stuff, and they were together for the first Viking episode, and she wasn't in the second episode. And then we've come to the Zygon stuff, and they were together at the beginning of the... Actually, no, they weren't together at the beginning of the Zygon stuff. You know, that he was calling her. They weren't together. They met up very, very briefly. Then he went to one city, and she went to somewhere else, and then they were apart. And then she got turned into a Zygon, and the Doctor spent the entire rest of the episode talking to the Zygon version of Clara, not Clara. So he only actually got to the Clara episode, Clara, at the end of that. So my point being, the Doctor and Clara have really spent very little time together this season, and yet the Doctor is... a major plot point seems to be about how much he's going to miss her. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't ring quite true. And I'm being picky because I liked the episode and I think it was cool, and it was so much easier to watch last week without the kind of the deep, dark kind of tones in there. It was a good fun adventure. I'm just kind of picking out the little things that make me not quite, I don't know if there's something, is the Doctor deliberately spending part time away from her because he knows something's going to happen? Like, when like there's bad news coming, or something, bad news comes on the radio and you turn the radio off because you don't want to hear it, you're avoiding it. No, is the Doctor avoiding something that he knows is going to happen? In which case, cool plot. Is there some sort, is there an alien inside? How like with, when Amy was a ganger, and for ages, the Doctor knew that she was a ganger, but didn't say anything. Does the Doctor know, will we have an episode in a couple of episodes' time where the Doctor kind of goes, well, I knew from episode 2 that actually blah, blah, blah. And that's why I've been avoiding you because, something like that. Jordan Rod's got a good idea there. Maybe it's like the Dumbledore Harry thing, they're staying away because he knows something. Could well be. Did Missy put something inside Clara in some way? And don't, before in Gryffindor sniggers. I don't mean that. You know what I mean? Things to kind of discuss. But we didn't have any stupid military stuff this time. We had Kate being dramatic Kate and shooting 2 Zygons and then apologizing. I'm sorry I had to do that, Doctor, but I'm sure you understand that I'm just generally badass. You had this, Osgood and Osgood again, and then Osgood, being, generally Osgoody, and nice dialogue there. And of course, the key moment of this, probably 2 episodes really, which was the Doctor's speech at the end. The 2 boxes, humanity on one side with a choice to start a war with the consequences, and then Zygon on the other side with a choice to start the war with truth or consequences, and the Doctor standing between the 2 of them, pleading with both, not to start. And it was a lovely acted speech, a lovely written speech. I liked the fact that it turned into a debate as well. It wasn't just, the Doctor going blah, 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 and both of them kind of going, oh yeah, you're right, click. It was actually quite long. I reckon if you timed that speech, it would have been at least 5 minutes, maybe, in actual terms of kind of dialogue. That's actually quite an extended period of time. And it was, you felt, and I liked the way that the Doctor's kind of passion kind of built up. He kind of started off kind of quite sarcastic, like, all right then, yeah, you're doing like fake kind of country. I could have lived without the Wild West accent, hey little lady, doing all that kind of stuff. But it served a purpose because he started jokey. He moved into the kind of like, have you actually thought about what you're going to do when you win? Like, have you actually thought about how that's actually going to work in terms of a society and things like that? And then he ended up with a passionate, emotional plea back to his own warlike days on the Time War, saying, I understand where you're coming from and you should listen to me because I don't want you to go through what I've been through. So, it built up really, really nice and really, really nicely. And, you could see, obviously there were kind of comparisons to real life. It was kind of talking about the futility of war and things like that. But it worked very much within the context of the episode. So I didn't feel this time that it was too heavy-handed in terms of comparisons. I felt you could kind of take it from it if you wanted, learn a lesson, but you could also kind of leave it there as it was, which was nice. And I also liked, obviously, with my what's the phrase, with my frustrations last week, I kind of thought, because it was so heavy-handed last week going one way, I was kind of hoping this week that it didn't go too heavy-handed the other way and kind of go, well, Zygons are people too, or, don't fear all Zygons because of this or that. But it didn't. It actually sidestepped that question. It didn't kind of go, Zygons are bad or Zygons are good, and it didn't kind of have any comparison to real life saying these people are good or these people are bad. Instead, it came at it from a different angle and said, what's the point of war? What's the point of fighting? Have you thought about the consequences of where these battles will go? Whichever side you're on, because you had Kate on the other side as well, and I really liked that. I really liked the fact that it wasn't just the Zygon or the outsider or the alien that was the one that was about to make a dangerous choice here. It was the human too. It was the good guy, if you like. And I liked the fact that the Doctor was standing between both of them, saying, "What are you doing? Have you thought about where this was going?" And I like the fact that it then kind of referred back to the Doctor's role in the Time War and how that he still kind of carries that burden. And I read another review saying, when's the Doctor kind of, they weren't being nasty about it. They were kind of saying, when's the Doctor kind of going to get over the Time War? But I don't feel that way. I feel that the Time War is just a major, major, major event in the Doctor's life. And he isn't completely attached to it, but he is massively mentally scarred by it, and his life changed massively because of it, and therefore it regularly comes into his line of thinking. And he hasn't mentioned it, for the majority of this season, and most of last. You had it in the 50th and things like that, but it's something you're aware that is there that makes him him. So I like that referencing back, and sometimes I think characters can act out of character, and as viewers, we can kind of pick that and kind of say, well, why did the Doctor do this? And why did the Doctor do that? And why is Clara doing this? This doesn't make sense. But one thing that really can make sense as a viewer is when he mentions the Time War. We've seen so much of that Time War. We built through Christopher Eccleston's rant with a Dalek, and us kind of going, what's that about? And then we were with him through Tennant's kind of reflections back on what Gallifrey used to be and what it became. And we were there through Matt Smith actually kind of going into the Time War, and then you saw the War Doctor and what all that was about. So when Capaldi references the Time War, we as the viewer get it. And when the Doctor says, I've been there, I've stood over a button, we know exactly what he's referring to. And when the Doctor says, and I didn't do it, and this is why it was a good thing I didn't, and I know how it feels, we understand how he feels, and so we can be there with him. The only thing that ruined it was when he turned around and said, well, the reason why I didn't press the button wasn't because it would have murdered gazillions of people. It wasn't because it was the wrong thing to do. It wasn't because forgiving was the right thing. It was because of Clara. That felt that felt a bit crap. But the setup was really, really nice. The big red button. I was going to say something else. John, I do Doctor Who review shows on Thursdays, and we occasionally have a lovely guy called John. I want to say John Pertwee, but of course it's not. John Davey occasionally comes on, and I think he was in this episode. I think he was a policeman in a car. I could be wrong, but I was like, I think that's him. I'm not sure, but there's people kind of chatting about it here, but I think I spotted him. So if that was you, then thank you. Thank you for coming on the show so much. It's lovely to have a star on the show. I was going to say something else. Apologies. It's just gone out of my mind about something I liked or something I didn't. No, it's gone. So I will pause there. I think it was a really nice resolution to what we had last week. There were odd little bits that I wish they'd kind of developed more with, but nothing's ever kind of perfect because everyone has such different kind of ideas with where they were going. There was lots of kind of feel goods at the end, with the Osgoods and things like that. But Osgood is actually a very popular character, so I think it's a good choice for the series to have her continue. Because she's a little bit, when people kind of talk about Captain Jack, everyone's like, oh, I love Captain Jack. He's just a popular character that pops up from time to time, and I think Osgood is one of those kind of like, oh, I love Osgood. She's a character that they can dip into from time to time. That honestly is a lot more likable than Kate. I have to say, Kate is a very nice kind of efficient character, but she's not kind of adorable in the way Captain Jack or kind of Osgood are. There's a kind of a bond there. So we've got a really nice kind of set of themes coming along. We've got the enemy within the friend within the enemies carrying on. This hybrid theme has kind of carried on. They seem to have forgotten about this idea of the Doctor running, so that was probably just a few lines at the beginning that aren't kind of going anywhere more. But I'm very intrigued to see where they kind of go this one next to this rather heavy-handed Clara's demise, which seems to be coming up imminently, we should say. So we're now on episode. We've had 4 two-parters: Davros, Ghosts, Lady Me, Zygon. So we're now on. We've done 8. Most Doctor Who series are 13, so we've got 5 episodes left, and I'm enjoying it. I've had my hesitations, as you know, and things I haven't liked, but I still think this is overall. I think this is a positive series that has made you think, has challenged itself, has had some fun with time, has had some fun with characterization, has had fun with lipstick and dark eyeshadow, and I enjoyed the two-parters. I think it's a bizarre choice that they completely kicked out two-parters for 2 seasons, maybe. apart from finales. And then this time they've decided to go all the way around. I mean, I love two-parters, and I like the room it gives plot lines to breathe, and the fact that they can give more time to Osgoods and Kates, and you can have little kind of subplots and things. I like two-parters. I'm very pleased to see them return. I'm pleased to see them to return en masse. However, I'm aware that other people will prefer the opposite. So I do think it's bizarre that they've kind of gone all one way and then all the other, rather than kind of just spacing it out nicely. But, you know, yeah, these things happen. Thank you for watching, everybody. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, then please follow, leave a like. If you're watching on Twitch, then please do follow or subscribe. And it's great to have you here. I'm going to stop there because my voice is going. And I will see you guys next week for wherever the Doctor's adventures will take us. You have been fantastic, my friends. And you know what? So was I. Goodbye.